Together we can end the climate wars.
This is a victory for climate change. This is a climate election.
And yet, the defining issue of the 2022 election was barely cited during an election campaign dominated by hip pocket pitches.
The point is, who can manage the nation's finances to keep downward pressure on rising interest rates, downward pressure on costs of living?
Real wages have gone backwards yet again. The choice Australians have to make this Saturday is which party can be trusted to solve these problems.
Climate change simply did not feature in the policies and the platforms from the major parties, and in particular from Scott Morrison.
There was a real attempt from Liberal and Labor to bury it as an election issue.
That saw voters desert the major parties in droves. Climate-conscious Teal candidates on track to claim 5 seats in the eastern suburbs of Sydney and Melbourne, traditional Liberal heartland.
My positions have been very clear through the campaign: climate, prosperity, integrity and gender equality. And they're the reasons that people voted for me.
In Brisbane, similar voter sentiments have the Greens set to pick up as many as 3 inner-city seats from the LNP.
I think I've acknowledged already tonight that, that on climate change, on gender and equality issues, I think there are very strong messages in relation to an integrity commission.
That might be where the coalition lost the election, but it's not necessarily where Labor won. The ALP also losing primary votes to Green and Teal candidates nationwide.
And we would like to have picked up more climate-conscious voters in the city, so we'll have to work out why that hasn't been the case. There is a long-term trend away from people being identified solely with one party or another.
That trend probably won't cost Labor a majority, but it will still put the climate-conscious crossbench in a powerful position to advance their agenda.
He will need to give us the assurance that he will provide to us what the electorates that have elected us are wanting, and what we want is effective action on climate change, and we want an ICAC with teeth, and we want them in the next 6 to 12 months.
So can they make Labor dance to their tune?
Well, Labor MP Catherine King is widely expected to take her spot in Cabinet when they do get sworn in. Catherine, in a nutshell, what drove the result last night?
Well, I think an absolute desire for change. I think the electorate has been telling us for some time that they want integrity in politics, they want a government that actually takes climate change seriously, and they want to see politics done a bit differently. I think people in my seat, people across the country, wherever I have travelled, have been saying that, and I just don't think the government listened.
It may have been an endorsement of change. It wasn't entirely a uniform endorsement of Labor. There were swings against you. How confident are you of getting majority in your own right?
Well, I think we're certainly close to that, and obviously we're the only political party that can, on the results of last night, be able to form a government. What form that takes, I guess the next few days will certainly tell.
Catherine, as you mentioned, the electorate has sent a very clear message. It wants more action on climate. So will Labor commit to more ambitious interim targets?
Well, I think we've got absolutely the right policy, and that's what we'll implement in government. It's really a policy that had both the business community, the National Farmers Federation, and also some of the climate and the renewable energy sector well and truly saying this is the right policy. I think it will see a massive renaissance in our regions as we see renewable energy jobs. I think we've got huge opportunities in this country as a result of that, and that's the policy we took to the election, and that's the policy we want to implement in government.
But, Catherine, that Teal vote indicates that people want more action. What Labor was offering was not enough.
I think what you see from the Teal vote really clearly is that they were unhappy with the moderate Liberals who basically had backed Barnaby Joyce. I think this is really about a fight for the heart and soul of the Liberal Party, and they didn't listen to that. Obviously, we've seen across the country as well the Green vote grow up, and again, I think what that shows to us is that there is a massive appetite for progressive politics and politics being done differently. I think the other thing the Teal vote really showed is this whole notion about representational politics, about local politics, and about people wanting people representing them in their communities that have their, and magnify their voice. And that's, I think, what we also see right the way across the country.
Catherine, I know this is disputed within the Labor Party, but it just seems to me there was a small target strategy and it involved climate change. That did enable you to hold Hunter, but it seems to have cost you a seat around Brisbane and probably helped the Greens win another seat in Queensland. Is it time to stop this sort of seat-by-seat strategy and just take a more courageous position on climate change?
No, look, I think that we've got the right policy. I think the policy that we've taken really is about, look, I've been, doing this job for 20 years, and what I've seen is the far left of this argument, the far right of this argument, basically having this massive fight with each other, while people are desperately wanting change, but really want to see that change happen in a way that the transition doesn't lose people in the regions their jobs, that actually provides opportunities for people in those areas that are highly reliant on coal exports and coal mining, that they actually have that transition and that it's not just a short, sharp jump. So I think it is the right policy for the country, it is the right policy for the economy, and really, we of course dispute this notion of a small target strategy. I mean, it was a really big policy. It's a policy we have lost government before on. It is actually a policy that, or an issue that is, it is time for us actually to move forward on this and stop the far left and the far right arguing about it and really ending those climate wars. And I think this is a policy that will actually do that and provide that transmission, drive emissions down, but also see Australia as a renewable energy superpower.
Catherine, this is a huge result for a lot of people, but none more so than the Billa family. Of course, they've spent over 4 years in detention now, and Albo promised that he would bring them out of detention if you guys were elected. Here is Priya when she heard the result.
We're going to come home.
It's all been worth it.
It's all over.
Oh,
I can't imagine the relief she must be going through. When are they going to be able to return home?
Well, we need to get an immigration minister sworn in. That minister will use their discretion to send them home. It is time for far more compassion in politics, particularly towards this family. I know Anthony stood in the streets of Billa holding hands with people in that community, wanting to get them home. He was there long before many of us were talking about this issue. He wants them home, and as soon as possible, we get an immigration minister sworn in. This family's going home. They've suffered way too long, and I think, again, this is about having a more compassionate government, a government that cares about people and actually treats everyone with kindness.
Catherine, it's a remarkable win. Soak it up, and thanks for your time.
Will do. Thanks so much.
Barry Cassidy, for an election campaign that at times seemed to be about so little other than sniping, the result seems to be incredibly consequential. Did you imagine this? How does Australia look different today?
Well, Australia's vastly different because of the nature of the crossbench now. There could be as many as 14 crossbenches. We haven't had that many before, and all the suggestion is that those numbers will grow. And that's why I think it's now incumbent upon the Labor Party to think really carefully about this. Even if the Teals and the rest of them don't hold the balance of power, I think it's important for Labor to find ways to work with them. I think they will, because Anthony Albanese is likely to be... he's a more conciliatory type than Scott Morrison. They could actually do worse than adopt Helen Haynes as the independent member for Indi has put up a proposal around a National Integrity Commission. And if they could find a way to pretty much adopt her proposal, that would be a very early reach out to the Teals and to give a signal to the country, I think, that they're going to take this element of the party seriously, because, look, they don't necessarily need them, but you don't want them coming at you either, because they're a formidable team.
The spread of numbers across the various parties is extraordinary, unprecedented.
Yeah.
Going forward, is this the end of majority government, do you think?
Look, I was thinking about this last night, and I just think this Labor majority government could be the last in my lifetime. I think the last of any major party having a majority, and I say that because the primary numbers have been diminishing for years. There's no reason why they won't continue to diminish. And while the crossbench grows, the harder it is for the major parties to get a majority. So, I really do think that we have to get used to doing politics in a different way. And we really shouldn't freak out about it either. I mean, people deal with it. Countries deal with it perfectly well overseas.